There was an interesting debate on Al Jazeera with a bunch of participants. One of them was Benny Morris, Mehdi Hassan, but I wanted to hone in on one interaction between an Israeli scholar and I guess a Palestinian journalist of some kind, and he really educated her. Check it out.
We have Diana Boutou, who's a Palestinian lawyer in Israel, former advisor to the PLO. Emmanuel Navon is an international relations lecturer at Tel Aviv University. Daniel Levy is a former Israeli peace negotiator, president of the US Middle East Peace Project. Diana, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about genocide, because we started the show talking about genocide. Benny very adamantly says it's absurd. There's many definitions. You're a lawyer. What do you make of that?
Look, Benny is exactly what I expect him to be, which is a genocide denier and a genocide apologist. Every human rights organization has been defining this as a genocide. We have the ICJ that has come out and said that there's plausible case for genocide, and yet we're to believe the Israelis, the only people who say that it isn't a genocide. Israel's allowed to be a colonizer, Israel's allowed to do what it pleases, and that Palestinians just have to sit by idly and take it. And this is the fundamental problem with Zionism. But we, Palestinians, are the ones who feel Zionism on our bodies. We've paid for it with our lives. We've paid for it with our land. This attempt to redefine Zionism will go nowhere, because you know, and the world knows, it's a
Hold on, I'm going to bring in all the panel.
It's a colonial...
All right. Emmanuel, you teach international relations in Israel. Is there a recognition there that a lot of the world governments, allies of Israel, as well as the usual human rights groups, are very critical, at a minimum, of the way that Israel has prosecuted what's going on in Gaza?
Well, first of all, Diana said we're feeling Zionism. You're right, you're feeling it, because the only place in the Middle East where Arabs are free is Israel. And so the freedom that you have, Diana, is because the only country in the Middle East where there is freedom is the state of Israel, from which you benefit, and you should be thankful for it.
I'm not grateful at all.
Because the only country in the Middle East where Arabs can elect their officials, be elected, be judges at the Supreme Court, be president of a university, the only free country in the Middle East is Israel.
Dan, do you want to respond to that?
I find it staggering that the gentleman to my right is telling the Palestinian citizen of Israel how she is experiencing the reality under which she lives. It's a staggering moment for me. Now, there were different strands to Zionism, okay? There was a cultural Zionism, there was a binational Zionism. This could have gone in different directions. From the perspective of 2024, 75 plus years in, the idea that this is just something benign doesn't match with the reality that has been lived. Now, I would say it's clear what this has meant for Palestinians, but I would argue it's not doing what was written on the tin for Jews either. I don't think either Israeli Jewish or global Jewish safety is best served by the actions we see day in, day out in Gaza.
Would you like to respond to what you've heard from the panel?
Please. I think there's a misunderstanding here. There is a separation between Israel and the West Bank, Israel and the occupied territory, largely populated by the Palestinians and the state of Israel. In Israel itself, there is a rule of law. There is generally equality between the Jews and the Arabs, and you're misrepresenting it when you say that they are persecuted, and he's damn right in what he says. All the Arab states are dictatorships which do not allow their citizens any freedom. And Israeli Arabs enjoy most of the rights. They may be discriminated against in certain things, but they may enjoy certain rights which Jews do not have. For instance, not serving 3 years, wasting 3 years in the army, for example. Israeli Arabs don't do that.
We don't want to do
No,
yes.
it's fine.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure most Palestinians are desperate to serve in the Israeli military right now.
I'm sure you're right.
Thank you for leaving us from
One should be in pre-1967 Zionism in Israel, it was not a colonial enterprise. In the West Bank, there is a colonizing and colonial framework, which is even apartheid-like in its actual workings. But in pre-1967 Israel, that was not the case. And for the first 100 years or so of Zionism, it wasn't a colonial venture. It wasn't a venture of an extension of an imperial. Let me just define colonialism, since you're so busy defining genocide. Imperialism and colonialism were matched together in which imperial and empire sent its children to dominate and take over a third world country and exploit its riches
not
and its
South
people.
Africa.
This is not what Israel did until 1967.
Emmanuel, do you agree with Benny that there is a colonial aspect and apartheid-like aspect to the occupied West Bank?
No. Zionism is a national liberation movement that freed its land from Arab Muslim colonialism. How do you think Islam expanded itself from the Arab Peninsula to Indonesia, from Indonesia to Morocco? Not from the Holy Spirit. This was conquest and colonialism.
This is exactly the problem, is that he's a racist. He espouses these racist views. That's the problem with Israel. Israel is a society, a country that is based on this idea of Jewish supremacy, and anything that they do or say goes, which means, therefore, that as a Palestinian who lives in that country, who is not enjoying any benefits of so-called democracy, that they get to espouse and tell me how I feel. They get to make statements like we are a fifth column, and they actually treat Palestinians as though they are a fifth column. It's very important, Mehdi, for people to understand that Israel came to us. We didn't immigrate to Israel. Israel's a colonial movement, and as a colonial movement, its aim is to not only get rid of Palestinians, but it's to transform the entire place, to erase and replace.
Okay, Emmanuel, I want to ask you this. Do you recognize the shifts that Benny was agreeing on at the start of this segment about what's happening inside of Israeli society?
Well, allow me to respond to what Diana just said. She's not telling the truth. What she's saying is not true. First of all, the Jewish country, I mean, there are over 190 states in the world. Most of them are nation states. It's not about supremacy. It is about national self-determination and freedom. Now, we didn't come to you. This is our land.
No, it's not.
This is a Jewish land.
The way that the state was created was
our
through
land.
the
And
ethnic
first of all, when you
cleansing
we came to you, it's not. I did not interrupt you.
Family.
Diana, let him finish his point, Diana.
Okay. First of all, when you say we've been there for hundreds of years, the word Palestine, it's an invention of British colonialism. It was invented in 1920. It did not exist under the Ottoman Empire. So when this story starts, it's a colonial invention. So when you say Palestine, and you can't even pronounce it in Arabic because there's no P in Arabic, that's why we say Philistine, right?
There's no J.
We did not conquer.
All right, Emmanuel. Okay, we are out of time, and I'm going to.
Brilliant job by that Israeli scholar. I just want to, make note of one thing. There were three types of Jews there, or Israelis there. There was the token Jew, the one that just said, yeah, Palestinians are right. I'm going to go with them because I'm scared. The Holocaust happened, all this other stuff. I'm scared for my safety. I'm going to side with the enemies. You had the, Benny Marcus, who was the apologetic Jew. Well, Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel is all this other stuff. But, Israel has a lot of problems here and there. And then you have the Jew that is not afraid to speak the truth. And Emmanuel spoke the truth despite everyone in the room disagreeing with him. He said the truth, that Arab colonialism and that Israel is a decolonization project, that Israel, basically the Jews belong in Israel, and therefore them going back to Israel and reclaiming their biblical homeland is a decolonization of the Arab Muslim conquest. Brilliant job there. And then one other point, that woman is basically saying she wants to destroy Israel in order to have less freedom, because under an Arab Palestine or a Muslim Palestine, she wouldn't be able to not cover her hair. She wouldn't be able to walk around and say things in public. She wouldn't be able to do half the things that she's able to do in an Israel, where you're allowed to speak against the government. You're allowed to essentially, wear whatever you want to wear, say whatever you want to say, and all of this other stuff. Versus in every other Arab country, those freedoms are not allowed, and clearly, she's misguided in that. Brilliant job by that Israeli scholar. For more, subscribe to this channel. If you want to help us make more of these videos, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored. That's buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored. Thank you, and have a good one.